Alright, so last year I've made a video where I was explaining how to basically scale from nothing to 100k or even more, and this was basically my plan. I've basically TLDR, in hindsight, I maybe should expect it's gonna be a little bit too chaotic, but like throughout the year I had to change a lot of things when it comes to my system because it was basically overwhelming. So introducing 2026 well polished and refined model. So that's what we're gonna be discussing today. I'm gonna share a few basically mistakes or some flaws that I found throughout my framework and how I basically come up with the solution to make it even better, and especially when it comes to risk management and time management overall. Not gonna be going too much detail into the previous video, but as you can see here, I was focusing on two markets and I've traded way too many pairs. Four was basically the major one, and then I was focusing on some side ones depending on the market condition. At the same time, I got roughly around 6 accounts. I didn't copy all of them because I was trading different models, and I also wanted to rotate the accounts a little bit. So I'm not gonna be, fully dependent on one trade will gonna blue or, put me on a drawdown on all of my accounts. And that was basically TLDR. That was the results for me to going into too much energy consumption prior to basically my trading. So I still traded roughly around 2 hours every single day, sometimes even more if the conditions were really well. But sometimes if the trade wasn't appearing in the first 30 minutes, I was done. I was focusing, basically my major hiccups was when I saw the setup, I was trading maybe one account that has been copied, but then I switch into another one coming back, and basically I was switching throughout the day, multiple accounts, and that was when it comes to decision making and stuff, that feels a little bit heavy to me. So that was the major flaw. The second one, basically my MO model, this is something that I still trading no matter what. I actually polish it a little bit even more thanks to the Python and stuff, so gonna talk about it a little bit later on. And my MP model, even though it was nice, I actually found a better variations when it comes to this replacement, because this takes a lot of decision making, and I felt pretty much fried, not gonna lie. So the 2026 will be way different. I'm gonna have a way different approach. So I come up with the solution throughout the entire year and how I was dealing with a certain days in the markets. I've decided trading less, or basically spending less time in the market. So nowadays, or I was trading 2 hours a day. I'm still gonna be doing it, but because now I have a much more data to back it up, my setups, I'm just gonna be spending way less time in the market, which means I will have more time to polishing, improving my trading strategies. Also, because I don't making that much content, well, to be honest, maybe once a year on the channel and on the Discord, I'm just replying if someone has some questions. So I got way more time than before, and because of it, I started learning Python and on the side PineScript, so I can have some tools that will help me to automate my trading. So I genuinely believe the less is more. Probably gonna explain a little bit later on, but I am currently focusing on very few pairs that I have so much basically statistical data to back it up my high probability conditions. Because I've noticed that it's really nice if you don't have the same amount of the resources as I have created. It kind of actually makes sense to kind of diversify, the portfolio of your system through the different models or different pairs, right? Because if you're not gonna have the trade set up on, I don't know, EURUSD, maybe you're gonna have it on the UJ or Aussie dollar, things like that. But for me, now I know basically what is going to happen in one pair, when it's likely to going to happen, so I can just focus on that specific, you know, occurrence, and I can scale much more bigger and much more reliable. The second biggest change for me will definitely gonna be, I'm gonna be more heavily focused on return on investment. So the previous year I was focusing on having a good solid bulletproof strategy and just focusing on the strategy alone. But because I've realized that if I want to get payout, I need to have a little bit different approach. And when I was doing some calculations, I've actually realized that I spending too much time to having or polishing my training strategy, be a little bit more disciplined. But when it comes to the time versus the money, I would basically make much more if I am a little bit more aggressive when it comes to spending my money. So what I'm gonna be doing is, obviously I'm gonna be spending more for challenges, stuff like that, but also I'm gonna be tracking how much I was basically gain per dollar spent. That's literally it. So obviously if I have at least 2 to 1, basically $2 gain versus $1 spent, versus $1 spent, it's gonna be good enough. But obviously I'm gonna be focusing on way higher return, but eventually it's gonna be spending less time and scaling basically more, and focus on how much money I'm spending versus gaining. The third biggest change, and this has been life-changing since I got more time into the coding, was basically statistical based trading plus basically semi-automation is now my core how I'm trading. You can think of it as my system from the previous year, which is right here, that MP. These setups where you can see me here executing, I basically coded, and now I basically set the alerts, so I don't even need to check out the charts. I just set the alerts, and if the setup is presented, I will get a notification and decide whether to take a trade or not. I'm actually show you some screenshot a little bit later on. So this is my major basically improvement when it comes to the 2026. So that's my kind of semi-automation. And statistical based trading is, I've obviously, because I'm trading my system for a fair few years, I know what kind of levels and what kind of parameters I want to know the probability of. So I put it into the Python, and I got a bunch of basically statistical data that backing up what is the highest probability trading condition. So sometimes making less trades, but my win rate is way higher than was basically before. And like I said, less is more. I am focusing, basically doubling down on 2 majors, which is EURUSD and NQ, and then I am focusing on putting up some size and obviously improving the edge over time, because I am 100% certain that the way I'm trading nowadays, the way I'm trading today, I'm not going to be trading the same way in 6 months from now, because I'm gonna be improving my coding skills, my trading skills, my knowledge in statistics and stuff, so I'm gonna be way more efficient over time. But from the last year, I've realized that doubling down on some simple things, or doubling down on few simple tasks, is way more efficient. Now, when it comes to the copy trading, I've actually noticed a little bit hiccups when it comes to trading all of the accounts under the one. So I'm gonna actually show you the explanation a little bit later on, basically right here. But you can think of the smart account rotation is, you're not gonna be copying every single accounts, but you're gonna rotate them. This way you will maintain your drawdown much more efficiently, and if you got eventually into a bad losing streak, you're not gonna basically blow all of the accounts, or you're not gonna be on drawdown on all of the accounts. This is basically the major reason. And that itself also helped me a lot when it comes to my psychology. So throughout the year, I've actually realized instead of like copying everything under the one, I was actually having, let's say 2 accounts and 2 accounts, and I was basically switching day by day between these 2 accounts. So if I got into the losing streak right here, the second day I got the win, and I got basically +1 on the second copying accounts. The very next day I switched into the losing one and I made a win. So I was basically break even on the first rotation, and the second one was already in the profit. So this way I found it's much more at least emotionally stable to me. So 2 majors, I actually have 2 different strategies because the NQ behaving a little bit differently than the basically EURUSD. I've discovered throughout my statistical based trading and some semi-automation that I actually got a few tools to have some mechanical strategy on the side that it basically generate a few, let's say 2 to 5 ARB per month, which is really great. So this is basically my major focus now. I definitely gotta be trading 2 main strategies, and on the side, because this is literally getting the alerts, hey, do you want to take a trade? Yes, no, that's literally it. So, and it having a positive risk reward ratio over time, so it's really nice. So basically TLDR, focusing on the better time management. Now let's go into the accounts rotation. So what you're seeing here is I basically trading 2 markets. I'm trading CFDs, basically forex, and I'm trading the futures. Obviously on the side, as you can see, there is some bonus strategy. So this is basically, you can think of all these points. So I will have main account on the CFD, on the futures, and basically my bonus, basically mechanical bonus are. Now what I like to do now is I'm trading 1 account each day, and the very next day I will switch into another one. The very next day I will switch into another one, and so on. And I'm basically rotating every single day different account. Now when it comes to the challenges, I've noticed that I don't want to trading the challenge account unless the market condition or unless I'm waiting for the payouts and I cannot trade a specific accounts. I found the best way for me to managing challenges at not trading them recklessly, because I want to pass it as quickly as possible, because challenges makes no money, right? I found the most efficient way is to basically copy trade with the accounts that I'm focusing for the payouts, but I'm not gonna be copy trading all of them that are available, but I will split it evenly or equally through the entire rotation. Every day I will trade 1 account that will have attached some challenge to it. That's literally my basically rotation, and I've noticed it helps me to become more stable when it comes to my decision, and also over time the drawdown is much more sustainable. So I found this is probably the most efficient way for me personally in last few years of basically trading. If you find a better way, just let me know in the comment. Now when it comes to payout, so basically I still gonna have attached to the personal account, but I don't involve it right here. So if I have a personal account, it's gonna be attached to basically the CFD account. So that's pretty much it. So when it comes to the payout on the personal, basically based on my own discretion. For the futures, obviously I focusing on the very first minimum payouts, which usually is roughly around like $1,000 ish. When it comes to the CFD and the very first basically live or the past account, I will be focusing on 2% for basically the fresh past account, so I can withdraw and secure the very first payout as soon as possible. And then because of the statistics, because of how I performed throughout the last year, I'm just gonna be focusing on every 5% or basically be weekly or the monthly. So if I am going to trade, let's say I'm gonna have 4% every 2 weeks, I'm just gonna withdraw the 4%. But if I'm gonna make 5% in the first week, I will withdraw the 5. That's how you can basically interpret this node. Now when it comes to trading workflow, obviously gonna be trading 2 different markets, and as you can see here, this seems like maybe 2 different strategies, but it's basically one strategy but different framework when it comes to certain probabilities. So I have one, let's say, polished model that I'm focusing on, which is I showed you at the very beginning of the video. And this is basically time-based statistics that I've run through the Python and show up consistent results over the last 5 years. And basically the last year of my trading alone. So I know my average weekly R for this model and for the London Open. I'm not gonna be disclosing it right here because I don't need to read some stupid comments, but that itself can help me to kind of forecast how much basically R, R or the percent per month I can expect throughout the entire year. So this gonna roughly takes me around 2 hours when it comes to the trading, but the decision making is even way easier. I'm gonna talk about it later on. And when it comes to the future, I also trading the London session when it comes to the NQ. So because this is pretty much semi-automated, I only trading the London Open when it comes to the NQ, and I'm just focusing on the charts here unless I'm getting the alerts on my CFD. That's literally it. And then when it comes to the New York Open, I usually not even 2 hours. If the market is really hot, I usually trade for 2 hours, but usually 30 minutes, 1 hour, and I'm done for the day. My entire workflow, I'm focusing the first 1 or 2 hours in the morning, and then just on the New York Open. That's literally it. What I do in between is usually testing some improvement strategies, things like that. And obviously I have some high time frame stat based strategy that basically is going alongside with all of this. This is not something I focus on at all. I just have my alerts, and if I gonna get alerted, I'm just gonna check the charts and decide it under 1 or 2 minutes whether to take a trade or not. So this one is definitely not a big deal. Now when it comes to the routine, I check my algo, review the condition, and decide whether to take a trade or not. That's literally it. Just to give you a little bit sneak peek, I reviewed my conditions based on 2 important things. The first one is obviously the news. If we're having some red news folder, I'm gonna be a little bit more cautious when it comes to my lower time frame trades, or I will adjust the system accordingly. The second conditions is I've made a scoring system that helps me to quantify or define basically how high probability the conditions at the setups are. So I actually come up with really smart, objective, basically statistical based conditions. So I can get a maximum of 6 points for the conditions, and for the setup quality also 6. So total I can get 12 points. Market conditions is usually how we basically distributing the daily candle, stuff like that. If we are reaching high probability levels and time-based high probability levels, stuff like that, that's all of it under the conditions. Also, if I have enough room to play a particular setup, all of it is basically right here. Not gonna go into much details. And the setup quality is if I am having all the criteria for the perfect setup, or if I only have half of the setup basically requirements. Basically, if either one of these conditions having less than 4 points, I usually size down my position. But also at the same time, if one having, let's say, 4 points, but the setup having less than 4 points, I basically take no trades. Because based on the robust testing, I've noticed that usually most of the setups having 5-6 points. That's basically how I can keep with really high win rate. And even though I might not gonna trade as much, if I size accordingly, I eventually gonna scale much more quicker. Basically, entire scoring system, I also code it so I don't need to review it manually as much or as thoroughly, because I already have my spreadsheet that I just need to check on. But basically, entire scoring system, including my trading setup, is all objective. It's basically derived from the statistical data from the Python I've run. And if I have the good condition, I'm basically waiting for my alerts, and once I get my alert, I usually place the trade. That's literally it. And lastly, basically my weekly review. I like to review the sessions, whether I miss some trades, stuff like that, and I basically journaling the trades with the execution. So I need to see my execution and maybe sometimes my thought process, how I was executing, and basically some review if I deviate from the plan. This is what I like to do on a daily. Nothing really, special. I just put few notes on the side on my personal Discord, Notion, things like that. Over the weekend, I just do a review of the particular week, and I'm basically comparing the results of entire week versus the basically opportunities that I could get based on all my data. And I basically compare the week with my R that I've made throughout the week. And I basically review and compare whether I was, on the same side, or if I had, some flaws, or if I did some mistakes. And I'm trying to solve the flaw as soon as possible. So after the entire review, I just asking myself what I need to do more and what I need to basically avoid. And this is literally a rinse repeat. Usually this doesn't take that much time because it's really straightforward. So the rest of the weekend, I usually testing some new variables, doing more, Python data sets. Actually working on some trading bot as well and writing some scripts, and that's pretty much it. Lastly, I can give you a sneak peek basically how some trading system, what I'm doing. I would start with this one. This is actually something I posted on the Discord. If this is something that I'm working on nowadays, and this is actually free to use, so if you want to use it, as long as you agree with being contributor to this indicator, meaning giving some feedback to me so I can improve it, check out the Discord and I will give you the access to the indicator. So this is currently something I'm working on the side, but my main strategy is basically here, which basically these signals are the ones that I've derived from my basically MM system. So my MM system, what you can see here is literally right here, and this is 15-minute chart. It works kind of like a charm, and as you can see here, it doesn't get many signals throughout the entire weeks, but as soon as I get the signal, it's usually going really well. Also, I have another indicator that's showing me some levels that I know the statistics of, some sort of retracement and expansions. So I'm using some statistical data with my signals, and that been literally game changing to me. And recently I come up with some statistical data that has been really, really interesting. So I'm trying to improve the idea behind some testing. So what you can see here is I'm actually testing some volume and some certain threshold of the levels, whether I can predict which direction is likely gonna break first, which alongside with my Python data, it seems really, really promising. So I'm really excited about this one, but this gonna take a little bit more time. Lastly, I would wrap this video with actually why I decided to trade the futures. So I never wanted to trade the futures, but I've actually had I actually found some deal in basically September where some of my trading buddies introduced me that there is literally a discount on 50k account. So I paid $35 to basically trade the very first time. This is my very first month of trading the futures, like overall. So as you can see here, throughout the basically first 3 weeks, I was testing and like trying to understand the market, the behavior. Also, this is something very much discretionary because at the time I didn't have any strategy for the NQ. As you can see, I just testing the sizing and stuff. Then I had some big loss, and then eventually last 3 days because my challenge was kind of over, I decided to finally size up and had 3 winning trades that basically puts me 2,500, and I passed the account. And the very next week or the very next month, I start, trading slowly. So roughly something like $100 to $200. and I roughly got $1,500 on the live account. So having basically or paying $35 to getting, you know, 15 or like $1,000 payout within a month, it seems like a really no-brainer. And like I explained right here, focusing on return on investment, this seems like a no-brainer, literally. So yeah, I hope you find this insightful. Maybe if you got any questions, let me know, and yeah, happy trading.